verse 21, look at the relational hate. Just being affiliated with Christ. Galatians 4:16, have I then become your enemy by telling you the truth? Paul says, what, I just tell you the truth and now I'm your enemy? We were tight. And now, truth and love and you hate me? Some of you know this conversation. I tell you, regrettably, I've had it way too many times. Way too many times. Now, some say it's unnecessary, right? I just want to give you a few verses from Ephesians chapter 5. Keyed in on verse 11, God's word says, no, it is necessary. You need to confront these challenges to Christ. Verse 11, take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. Now, what do you do with that if your cowardice overcomes your Christianity? And you say, yeah, I don't want to go there. That's a hard conversation. I'll tell you where you go. You go in defiance of God and His Word. Because God's Word is very clear. If you are His, even at great cost, you go and you don't engage with the darkness, but instead you expose it. Guess what? That's proactive. That's initiative. That's you doing the hard thing of turning the lights on. Even if in doing so, it comes at great cost to you. Now, this is the upper room. This is Jesus getting ready to go to the cross. This is the most intimate expression of His pouring in that we will ever know. And He's saying, listen, you need to be ready to die for me. You need to be ready to die for me. I'm about to die for you. Do you love me? 1 Peter 2:21, for God called you to do good, right? We'd love it if that was a period, but it's a comma. For God called you to do good, even if it means suffering. Just as Christ suffered for you, He is your example, and you must follow in His steps. There's a responsibility associated with hate in verse 22. If I had not come and spoken to them, they would not have sinned. But now they have no excuse for their sin. Let me just point out, because some think, oh, you mean if Jesus didn't show up, they wouldn't have had any sin? No, the grammar here and the context is saying they would not have had this specific sin. And now that they have seen and heard and rejected Him anyway, they have a double dose of consequence. Because it's one thing to have never heard, it's another thing to hear and walk away and say no. This is why, in part, I tell people that our church is a dangerous place. And I tell you with the love of a pastor, our church is a dangerous place filled with dangerous people. Why? Because we tell the truth in love. And once you hear and know the truth, you will be held accountable for what you know. This is a light-sharing place. And once you have been in the light, you will be held accountable for the light that you have received. I don't say that in a threatening way at all. And I don't say it in a braggadocious way. I say it with all the humility and the hurt of a heart that has been saved by grace and called to be an ambassador of Christ. But this is what He says. These folks knew, and they rejected me anyway. Those who know and say no are in big, big trouble.